He shall be like a tree, deeply rooted alongside brooks of water, that yields his fruit in its season, and whose leaf never wither. And everything that he does will succeed. This is literally everything we spoke about today. First, David HaMelech tells us here that this person that follows the Torah, follows these teachings of KEDUSHA, runs away from the naysayers, runs away from the people, from society, from all of the different negative influences. Whatever they do, as far as their intimacy with their spouse, will yield fruit. Now this is not only applicable in a person's life, this is applicable in the world today. There was a person that was a expert in the area of botanism. He was a botanist that Rabbi Reuven recently spoke to. And he says to Rabbi Reuven, I can't believe how much wisdom there is in the Torah. He said, just last year, I learned about the extraordinary wisdom that's in the Shemitah, of how it affects the land. Where all of these people that observed the Shemitah and, in so many words, didn't grow anything for a whole year, abandoned the ground for a whole year, you would think this would be bad. But if you follow what happened to their land after the Shemitah was completed, you would literally see a natural miracle where all of the nutrients, all of the minerals, all of the things people pay a fortune came naturally to those grounds because they were able to rest. And now their ground is able to yield much more fruit than they were ever able to do before. Why? Because they stopped for that 1 year. Rabbi Reuven says to him, this, everything else you've learned and much more that you didn't learn about botanism is all part of our oral Torah in a section called Zra'im, where we see in there that there is a mitzvah to not grow anything on the 7th year on the Shemitah. But KADOSH Baruch Hu didn't just do it for that mitzvah so you can follow what he says. There's also a benefit you will be able to see with your own eyes of how the land becomes better as a result of you stopping for that 1 year. The same concept goes in a person's life. A person is active the whole week. He's lifting boxes, he's driving to different places, he's up, he's down, he's doing all types of things, he exerts his body. Now, if every day or several times a week he's also exerting his body on an intimacy, then he's never going to have the ability to re-energize. He's never going to have the ability to improve himself, to rest, because all of his exertion at work is also coupled with the exertion with intimacy, where all of the nutrients, all of the minerals, all of the seed that he needs to have strength and to improve and to stay healthy is constantly exerted, it's constantly spent. On the other hand, if he maintains himself and he waits for Shabbat, the Ramban says, not only will he not experience a loss that would weaken him, but he will actually give strength to his mate. These are two different things. He says the loss he's not going to experience and weaken him. Why? Because he had the whole week to regain that strength. He exerted himself intimately on Shabbat. Now he acquired more strength, more of that seed throughout the week. So even though he exerted himself physically at work and whatever he did, that didn't affect the minerals and all of the things that are in his body. And therefore, by the next time to do it together, he's not going to experience that same weakness that your average person does, where sometimes they're intimate with their wife and they end up waking up late the next day, or they're drowsy the next day, or they get a cold, or all types of things. Now, of course, this is, again, this doesn't happen every single time. So a person that's very promiscuous and say, no, I'm fine, every day is fine. Fine, you can be fine. Long term, you see more of this stuff. Just like in any other experiment. Over the long run, you see the outcomes of these things. Much more than you do in the short run. But needless to say, that weakening that a person gets won't happen to you. Why? You had the whole week to regroup. You had the whole week to gather those parts that you've exerted in a positive manner. But even more so, he says, it'll actually give strength to your mate. What does it mean, give strength to your mate? That because you're doing it in a holy way, because you're containing yourself, because you're doing it in such a fashion that KADOSH Baruch Hu says you are practicing holiness, not just speaking holiness, not just saying that holiness is a good thing, but you're practicing holiness, your seed becomes holy. And therefore, when you share that holiness with your wife, you empower her. You actually empower your wife. And you give strength to your mate. You give strength to your wife. Now, therefore, says the Ramban, it said in the name of David HaMelech, in Tehillim chapter 1 verse 3, bring forth its fruit in its season, which is from Shabbat night to Shabbat night, and juxtaposed within the verse, and whose leaves do not wither. That is to say that the union will be for the sake of heaven, and it will come to completion. See, here we see that the Ramban is telling us again the same verse by David HaMelech, and mentioning it by letting us know that David HaMelech already implied this teachings of sanctity between a man and his wife in the first Tehillim, in these couple of verses. But in fact, the whole Tehillim is talking about it. In chapter 1, David HaMelech tells us praises of the man who walked not in the counsel of the wicked, and stood not in the path of the sinful, and sat not in a session of scorners. Right off the bat, David HaMelech is telling us, if your friends are those types of people that are fools that say that intimacy is simply to relieve themselves, they're not able to contain themselves, they just want to do whatever they want to do, and you found new friends, your new friend became the Ramban, your new friends became the sages of Am Yisrael, your new friends became Talmidei Chachamim, that want to achieve holiness, that's already you achieving praiseworthy. And those people that are making fun of you, one day they're going to ask you for blessings. The next verse, David HaMelech says, but his desire is in the Torah of Hashem. In his Torah he meditates day and night. A person that is going to achieve holiness is only going to do that by having Torah in his mind. If a person has Oprah Winfrey and Netflix and sports and money and all that stuff on their mind at all time, they're never going to attain wealth spiritually. They're never going to attain sanctity. Now again, everybody in their own level, but certainly everybody can reach somewhere better than what they are right now. And then David HaMelech says the verse that is deeply rooted within this lecture, where he says, he shall be like a tree, deeply rooted alongside brooks of water, that yields its fruit in its season, and whose leaf never wither. And everything that he does will succeed. This is literally everything we spoke about today. First, David HaMelech tells us here that this person that follows the Torah, follows these teachings of KEDUSHA, runs away from the naysayers, runs away from the people, from society, from all of the different negative influences, whatever they do as far as their intimacy with their spouse will yield fruit in the right time, in the right season. But they're not just going to be fruits that are rotten, fruits that have worms in it, fruits that are missing body parts, missing abilities, missing IQ points, but rather they're going to be deeply rooted. They're going to be ones that are the best of the best. And in fact, he himself will have a long life. His fruits and whatever he does is not going to wither, is not going to weaken. The act of intimacy between him and his wife is not going to weaken him. And not only that, everything that he does will succeed. Meaning this is not only going to lead to successful children, but also successful marriage, happiness, and successful when it comes to parnasah. Meaning a person can live a piece of Gan Eden by attaining KEDUSHA. Not so the wicked, says David HaMelech. Rather, they are like the chaff that the wind drives away. Therefore, the wicked shall not be vindicated in judgment, nor the sinful in the assembly of the righteous. For Hashem attends the way of the righteous, while the way of the wicked will perish. This is obviously self-explanatory, where David HaMelech says, everything we just said at the righteous, that achieve sanctity, that chase after sanctity, that chase after KEDUSHA, everything that they will get, the wicked will not. Now you think that sometimes the wicked look like they're succeeding? Look, he just bought a $10 million house. Look, he has this company. Look, he has this. Look, he has that. He says, look, eventually it's going to wither. Eventually it's going to go away. Eventually it's going to fly with the wind. Eventually you'll see who was God with at all times, and who just had the optical illusion of the Satan. Strong lectures, similar and different to the one that you heard tonight, that are simply full of sources, honesty that's brutal but is effective. Tikkun Abrit, it helped countless people get closer to Hashem, because for the first time in their life, they heard that there are serious ramifications for their bad actions, whatever those bad actions are.